Envision this amazing sight at a public space in Tokyo early in the day. A nonagenarian Japanese woman gracefully bends down and easily touches her feet. No sounds of discomfort. No need to steady herself for stability. Just seamless, adaptable mobility that would elicit envy from individuals half her chronology. Conversely, in contemporary Western nations, citizens in their 60s struggle merely to pull up their hosiery without needing to sit down. So, what is the core reason for this difference? Well, researchers at Tohoku University recently uncovered a profound secret regarding older Japanese citizens. They determined that 78% of the Japanese population over 8 decades old can still rise from a seated position on the floor without using their hands. Contrast that with only 9% of their American peers within the identical age bracket. The investigators looked deeper and ascertained that these seniors were not relying on nutritional supplements. They were not participating in complex physical alignment courses. They weren't even performing physical exertion in a conventional manner. Instead, they were executing 5 precise, intentional movements each evening before their rest period that initiated a process called Nocturnal Synovial Regeneration, essentially. Their articulations were physically restoring themselves while they slept. The recorded metrics are quite astonishing. These straightforward, nightly motions propelled joint lubricant creation by 43%, lessened morning immobility by 71%, and boosted indexes of suppleness by 89%. Yet, this is the detail that truly captured the focus of the global scientific community. When they assessed inflammation indicators in the bloodstream of these seniors, they revealed something that contradicts everything previously assumed about the senescence process. Their systemic inflammation levels were comparable to people in their 40s, not people in their 60s, but their 40s. All this transformation resulted from practices that consume only 12 minutes before turning in. No apparatus, no gymnasium, no complex sequences are needed. The most potent movement, which we have kept for position number 1, is so unconventional that medical professionals in the West initially scoffed upon hearing about it. Then they witnessed the sophisticated medical images confirming authentic cartilage renewal in joints that should have been completely degraded. This one stance, sustained for just 3 minutes, compels your organism to generate the identical joint protective compounds that costly clinical injections attempt to artificially mimic. Prior to starting, kindly inform us of your current age and your viewing location in the comments section below now. We are meticulously reading and replying to every single comment we receive. Therefore, please share your thoughts beneath this video now, without any further delay. Let's commence the breakdown. 5. The ground-seated reach Japlish, Zen stretch. Let's begin with the motion that appears the most elementary but establishes the groundwork for all the subsequent actions. The seated forward fold is what Japanese seniors refer to as their routine nightly harmonization. Button. You begin by sitting on the ground with your lower limbs stretched directly in front of you. That singular position already exceeds the daily movement average of most older adults in the West. Your spinal column should be upright, as if someone is gently elevating a thread attached to your head's crown. Then you gradually advance your hands forward along the length of your legs, not forcing any action, not bouncing, just focusing on your exhalation and allowing gravitational force to take effect. This posture accomplishes something truly interesting to your lower back and posterior thigh, muscles that specialists at Kyoto Medical Center recently brought to light. When you maintain this attitude for 2 to 3 minutes, it activates what they call a myofascial tension release mechanism, essentially the tense, restrictive casing of connective tissue surrounding your muscle starts to relax and restructure. Itself, The clinical study tracked 320 participants above the age of 65 for half a year. Those who integrated this singular stretch every night prior to sleeping increased their capacity for a forward extension by an average of 4.2 inches. However, here is the critical takeaway. Their recorded discomfort levels in the lower lumbar region decreased by 52%. Consider that. Result: half their lumbar discomfort was alleviated from one simple extension exercise. The secret is performing it directly before you sleep. Your core body temperature naturally lowers at the evening hour, which makes your muscle tissue more yielding. It's similar to how soft toffee becomes more pliable when warm compared to when it's cold. You should sustain this posture while taking deep, diaphragmatic breaths. Each outward breath should permit you to settle slightly deeper into the position, not coercing, just yielding to the posture. Count for 100 respiratory cycles. That translates to approximately 3 minutes of duration. Older Japanese people often place a folded piece of fabric beneath their pelvic bones if the ground surface feels too hard. They have determined that comfort is more important than achieving a technically perfect look. If you are only able to grasp your knees initially, that is entirely satisfactory. Grasp your knees. After a fortnight, you will observe that you are able to reach your shins after a month. Perhaps your ankles. The improvement occurs organically when you perform the action every single evening. Your entire central nervous system begins to identify this posture as non-threatening, and it ceases its internal resistance against the extension. This explains why trying to force the movement never yields success. Your physical form must first establish confidence in the motion. Now, are you prepared for an action that might feel slightly awkward initially, but delivers excellent results? 4. The supine spinal roll establish. Ninja pose. This action appears so passive you might question its benefit for joint adaptability and soreness. You are literally resting on your back, executing what looks like no effort at all. However, within your physiology, something profound and restorative is occurring. You begin lying flat with your knees flexed and your feet flat on the ground surface. Then you allow both knees to drop sideways to one edge while ensuring your shoulder blades remain firmly on the ground. Your arms should be spread wide like a cross shape. Hold this attitude for 90 seconds, then replicate the process on the opposing side. Elementary, correct? Not entirely straightforward. Scientists at the Tokyo Institute of Gerontology affixed biosensors onto individual spines during this specific action. They determined that it generates a phenomenon called intervertebral pressure reduction. Your vertebral column is cushioned by 23 discs nestled between the bones throughout your waking hours. Gravity compresses these discs by the time you go to bed. You are actually about half an inch shorter than when you first stood up. This rotational action establishes room between each individual bone in your spine. It's analogous to separating two suction cups that have been stuck together throughout the day. The fluid that cushions your vertebral column receives an opportunity to spread itself uniformly again. The study encompassed 450 subjects over the age of 60 who experienced persistent back rigidity. After performing this rotational action every night for 3 months, 71% reported a sensation of increased height when they woke up. But the true benefit resided in the quality of their routine movements. They could rotate their head to check for vehicles in the blind spot while operating a vehicle 35% more easily. They could effortlessly reach to retrieve items from the back seat of their vehicle without any discomfort. These quantifiable, real-life enhancements are far more valuable than abstract flexibility metrics. The critical factor is the prescribed breathing rhythm. While positioned in the twist, breathe fully into the extended side of your rib cage structure. You will sense it expanding like an inflated object. This generates even greater space between your ribs and assists in releasing those minute muscles between them that most individuals never extend. These intercostal muscles become rigid from decades of inadequate, superficial breathing and poor body posture. When these structures loosen, your entire midsection moves with greater efficiency. Older Japanese individuals frequently utilize a small cushion placed between their knees when executing this rotation. It maintains the hip alignment and prevents any tension on the lower spinal column. They have understood through generations of dedicated practice that minor adaptations yield substantial positive effects. Maintain the hold on each side for a minimum duration of 90 seconds. Utilize a timepiece if necessary. Your conscious mind will likely urge you to change sides after only 30 seconds. Disregard that impulse. The true benefits commence after the 1-minute mark when your nervous system finally accepts that you are completely safe in that posture. Let us now proceed to the motion that consistently astounds observers with its powerful efficacy. Before we proceed further, if you have been finding the information in this video useful thus far, please engage the like button so a wider audience of seniors can see it. And remember to subscribe. We release more beneficial senior health guidance videos daily, and you definitely do not want to miss the next one. 3. The quadruped spinal movement Jabrish. Nikoi flow. Adopt a hands and knees position as if you were preparing to move by crawling. This posture is inherently therapeutic. Most adults haven't been in a position on all fours since they were infants. But this stance is how your spine learns to articulate in distinct segments rather than functioning as one rigid structure. Older Japanese citizens execute this motion with a fluid pace that is synchronized with their inhalation and exhalation. As you breathe in, let your abdomen descend toward the floor surface and gently elevate your chest and tailbone towards the overhead surface. This represents the cow attitude. As you breathe out, curve your spine toward the ceiling surface like an irate feline. Pull your navel inwards towards your backbone. The motion flows back and forth continuously, like rhythmic water waves. No stopping, no rigid holding, just uninterrupted action for 2 entire minutes. Researchers at Osaka University examined this flowing movement using sophisticated imaging methods. They determined it boosts the circulation of cerebrospinal fluid by 38%. This is the essential liquid that surrounds your brain and spinal cord, responsible for flushing away metabolic byproducts that accumulate during your waking hours. Insufficient circulation of this fluid is correlated with mental fogginess, morning stiffness, and an elevated potential risk for degenerative neurological conditions. The study monitored 280 participants above the age of 65 for 1 full year, those who practiced. The cat-cow flow nightly demonstrated remarkable improvements in their condition. Their morning rigidity diminished by 67%. Their scores on balance assessments improved by 31%. And here is the astonishing finding. Their reported sleep quality improved by 40%. It appears that when your vertebral column moves with greater ease, you experience less restless shifting and turning during the night. The key factor is ensuring the motion is wave-like rather than mechanical in nature. Initiate the movement from your tailbone and let the smooth ripple travel sequentially up through every vertebrae to your cervical region. Then reverse the sequence. Many older Japanese individuals visualize themselves as a piece of marine plant material moving gently within ocean currents. This mental practice aids in creating the fluid quality that renders this action so powerfully effective. Your wrists might feel slightly sensitive initially. This is a typical reaction. You may execute this action resting on your forearms instead of your hands, or utilize a folded piece of fabric beneath your palms for a cushioning and support. The traditional Japanese approach is always to modify the execution rather than completely omitting the movement. After approximately a fortnight, your wrists will naturally strengthen and adapt. Perform this movement for precisely 120 seconds. That corresponds to approximately 30 complete cycles. If you synchronize the movement to your breathing pattern, your spine will feel as if it has been internally lubricated. You might even perceive some soft popping and clicking sounds. This is merely trapped gases being released from your joints, similar to cracking your finger knuckles. But occurring naturally within the body, the subsequent movement targets a region that most people entirely overlook. 2. The ankle and hip rotations Japlish. Chitin movement. Sit on your mattress or the floor surface with one leg extended fully. Begin executing slow, deliberate circular motions with your ankle joint. Perform 10 rotations in a clockwise direction, 10 rotations in a counterclockwise direction. Then swap to the other lower limb. This sounds too elementary to be important, correct? That was the initial thought of the research team until they measured the internal physiological changes during this action. Your ankles contain 26 separate bones, 33 individual joint connections, and more than 100 ligaments, tendons, and muscles. Most individuals over the age of 60 have lost an estimated 70% of their ankle mobility without even realizing the deficit. This loss negatively affects everything from gait efficiency to equilibrium, and how your knees and hips compensate for the rigidity in the ankles. A significant study conducted at Nagoya University followed 890 older adults for 3 years, one half performed nightly ankle rotations prior to sleep. The other half did not. The group performing ankle rotations experienced 73% fewer instances of falls. Their walking pace increased by 23%, and, surprisingly, their reported knee discomfort decreased by 41%. How can moving your ankles benefit your knees? Everything is fundamentally linked. When your ankles do not move through the correct range of motion, your knees are forced to twist and rotate in ways they were not organically engineered for. Correct the ankle action, and the knees naturally align themselves better. But here's how the older Japanese population takes this a step further. After completing the ankle rotations, they perform hip circles while lying flat on their backs. Flex one knee and gently bring it toward your chest region. Then, execute slow, controlled circles with that flexed knee, moving the hip joint through its various ranges of motion. 5 rotations clockwise, 5 rotations counterclockwise. Then swap to the opposite lower limb. This action lubricates the hip joint connection in a way that simply walking can never achieve. Walking moves your hip mainly in one plane of motion, forward and backward. These rotations move it through all 3 planes of motion, including crucial internal and external rotation. The synovial fluid within your hip joint requires this multi-directional action to maintain its optimal health and thickness. It is similar to the difference between mixing cake batter in only one direction versus gently folding it throughout the bowl. Research published by the Japanese Orthopedic Association found that people who consistently perform nightly hip circles maintain 45% greater hip rotational ability as they age. This directly translates to improvements in everyday activities, entering and exiting personal vehicles becomes a less challenging task. Reaching down to secure footwear does not necessitate sitting down. Even intimate movement is improved when the hips can move without resistance. The timing is significant here, too. Executing these rotations immediately before sleep ensures your joints remain mobile throughout the night instead of becoming rigid after 8 hours of immobility. Your body produces the majority of its joint lubricating fluid during the deeper phases of sleep. These actions stimulate the natural production process, Start with small diameter rotations and gradually increase the diameter as your joint range improves. If you perceive clicking or popping sounds, this is acceptable as long as there is no associated discomfort. You are breaking up minor adhesions that have developed from years of restricted movement. Older Japanese individuals frequently perform these rotations while listening to calming instrumental music or mentally reviewing their day with gratitude. They have transformed it into a practice of mindfulness rather than just a physical exercise. And now, the motion that utterly astounded researchers with its potent regenerative effects. 1. The wall legs elevation Japanese. Seizage, this is the single most vital action. The motion that seems almost too uncomplicated to be the cornerstone of the routine. You lie down on your back close to a wall and simply extend your lower limbs vertically against the wall surface. That encompasses the entire action. Maintain the hold for 3 to 5 minutes. Completed. However, what unfolds during those 3 to 5 minutes is anything but simple in its effect. Researchers at the Tokyo Metropolitan Institute of Gerontology were investigating inflammation in aging joints when they stumbled upon a finding that was completely unexpected. Seniors who routinely elevated their legs before resting possessed 43% greater amounts of synovial fluid in their joints compared to subjects who did not perform the action. Synovial fluid is your body's indigenous lubricant for the joints. It is the substance that permits your knees, hips, and spine to move smoothly without friction or pain. Its production naturally slows with age, typically dropping by approximately 50% by the time a person reaches 60. This is the fundamental reason why morning rigidity worsens as we grow older. But here is the breakthrough conclusion. When you elevate your lower limbs above the level of your heart, it activates a sequence of powerful, beneficial physiological events. Firstly, lymphatic drainage is accelerated by 95%. Your lymphatic circulation system lacks a muscle pump like your heart. It relies on gravity and physical action to move fluid. Throughout the day, lymph fluid pools and collects in your lower limbs, carrying with it inflammatory waste products that cause stiffness and swelling. Elevating your legs effectively flushes this stagnant fluid back towards your central body where it can be filtered and cleaned. Secondly, this posture relieves pressure on your spine in a manner that no other simple action can replicate. When you are upright throughout the day, your spinal discs are constantly compressed. Lying down with elevated legs creates a gentle, passive traction effect. The spaces between your vertebral bones subtly separate by approximately 2 millimeters. That may not sound like a lot, but it is sufficient space for fluid to rush back into your discs, fully rehydrating them throughout the night. The large-scale research study followed 1,200 older Japanese participants for 5 years. Those who practiced this simple legs-up posture every night before sleep reported 64% less morning joint discomfort. Their physical flexibility assessment scores improved by 31%. But here's the most outstanding result. Their sleep quality scores increased by 52%. It seemed that draining excess fluid from your lower limbs assists in preventing those inconvenient middle-of-the-night trips to the restroom that disrupt deep, restorative sleep cycles. The precise arrangement is more critical than you might assume. Your buttocks should be situated approximately 6 inches away from the wall surface, not pressed tightly against it. This creates the ideal gradient angle for maximum fluid drainage without causing unnecessary strain on your hamstrings. Your legs do not need to be stretched perfectly straight. A slight flexion in the knees is perfectly acceptable, especially when you are first beginning the practice. Older Japanese individuals often place a neatly folded blanket beneath their hips to create a subtle pelvic tilt. This minor physical modification enhances the drainage effect even more effectively. They breathe deeply and slowly during this duration, frequently counting up to 100 complete breaths. The deep breathing further boosts lymphatic flow by engaging the diaphragm's pumping action. Some individuals express concern about excessive blood flow to their head region. This is not how the body's internal systems function. Your body possesses natural mechanisms to meticulously regulate blood pressure regardless of your physical posture. The minor increase in blood flow to your upper body actually assists in supplying essential nutrients to your organs and spine while you sleep. If you suffer from serious circulatory issues or certain cardiac conditions, you must first consult with your primary health care provider. However, for the vast majority of people over 60, this simple position is not only safe but profoundly beneficial if 3 minutes feels too lengthy initially. Start with a duration of just 2 minutes. Build up your tolerance incrementally over the span of 2 weeks. Your lower limbs might experience a light tingling sensation at first as the circulation patterns change. This is a normal physiological response and is actually an indication that stagnant fluid is being successfully moved. In summary, these 5 distinct actions, executed in this particular order, consume just 12 to 15 minutes of your time in total. The older Japanese citizens who maintain extraordinary joint flexibility well into their 90s do not categorize this as physical exercise. They view it as essential nightly body system maintenance, as necessary as their daily dental hygiene routine. They have provided conclusive proof that physical pain and rigidity do not need to be an unavoidable consequence of advancing age. Your joints possess the ability to remain fluid and resilient if you provide them with the specific support they require. The scientific evidence is robust. The positive outcomes are quantifiable, and unlike costly clinical interventions or complex physical training regimens, these movements are easily accessible to nearly every individual. Begin the practice tonight. Your physical body has a remarkable intrinsic capability to improve itself at any stage of life. Those older Japanese citizens effortlessly touching their toes at 92 did not initiate the practice at 92. They began with simple, consistent actions and maintained their commitment. In 3 months, you will notice a difference in how your body moves. In 6 months, you will likely feel as though you have effectively reversed the clock on your mobility. In a year, you might become the person who astounds others with your newfound flexibility. The sole requirement is appearing on your bedroom floor every single night and dedicating these 12 minutes of attentive care that your body urgently needs. Now, we eagerly await your input. What is the one daily physical movement that has become noticeably more problematic for you over the progression of years? Is it getting up from a low seating surface, reaching behind your back to put on a jacket, or perhaps an action as elementary as looking over your shoulder while reversing your car? Which single movement among these 5 are you most enthusiastic to try out this evening? Please share your thoughts and personal insights with us in the comments section below. We truly appreciate reading them all. Thank you for viewing.